And we're live. All right, guys. So, welcome to episode 12 of the Financial Decapitation Podcast. Again, remote podcasting for now. Um, joined with me today, of course, is our fellow co-hosts Mike and Peter.
Hello.
Hello.
Um, yeah.
And the
Just for context, today is May 28th, 2020. And yeah, all right. Well, if anyone has any sort of urgent topic they want to jump on.
why don't I kick it off with something I mentioned last week? So I mentioned a company that was sailing muddy waters, GSX Takeda. They are. It was a company that I mentioned where it was somehow found that they were misleading investors, and they um, were falsifying information about their user numbers and user info, and I said I would follow up and I would actually put my own money into it, and I did, and it's coming out pretty damn good because the news, uh, good for me, not so much for them, is has gone public that there is now a class action lawsuit against them for misleading investors, and it's them and a handful of other companies, all Chinese companies, falsifying information, and I get the feeling it's going to lead towards them getting delisted from the stock market after up to a certain point. But yeah, they are down roughly, I want to say, a little over 10% since last week, or since we last mentioned them. And I mean, 10% is nothing to scoff at. I think it's hilarious just because, like, it's the same people that figured out that Luckin Coffee was bullshitting. And but I don't think Luckin Coffee went through a class action lawsuit. I think they were filed against by the SEC and then just delisted. This is a class action lawsuit, so there's a lot of people. Not just it's not the SEC essentially. It's a lot of people angry at these people. That's hilarious. Also called it. Yeah, and if you honestly just Google GSX, everything is news just saying like short sellers are pounding away at China's company known as GSX, and it shows in the volume of trades and where the stock is headed, and yeah, everything points to down. So that's I don't know if it's I don't think it's too late. I definitely think you could still hop on board that one because if they get delisted, you make 100% of your short. I would not recommend buying them at all, even slightly. Yeah, they're a shit show waiting to blow.
Actually, I was looking into Luckin Coffee. It seems there might be some class actions being opened up against them from shareholders.
Oh, there you go.
Various law firms seem to be opening up or looking to open up lawsuits against them on behalf of their clients
Are
or
they
shareholders.
trying to recover all the money they lost?
Yeah. So, damn. Chinese
Yeah,
companies, man, gotta be careful with that sort of stuff.
yeah. It's a weird trading companies owned by the government, partially, at least partly owned by the government that we are currently in a trade war against. I don't understand how some of these companies are even able to trade on the stock market out here. How that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
like I guess for them it makes sense because then they'll get some sort of funding. They're able to like if they release sort of a public offering, they can get some American money behind them. But I don't see any way that could ever really end up positive unless they're a legitimate company. Yeah,
Yeah.
either way,
Yeah.
because there's plenty of Chinese companies out here. Like it's not like they don't exist and we use them every day. But if you're gonna be doing this kind of bullshit, why even bother?
Yeah, I mean, I've had investments in Chinese education, and that paid off pretty well. think that was about 3 years ago. So I think it just depends on what kind of equities and assets you look into that are foreign. Foreign's always a very touchy and very iffy investment, only because it's their work laws, their efficiency, and a lot of what their focus is on could
The
be
legality.
it could be really contradictory to the value, or the opposite. It could be super boosting the value. Yeah, it always depends.
Where was the?
So it was. Let me see if I can find the link, but it's basically a website that shows all the claims filed for like certain cases and stuff, and they have the case for GSX that they do, um, and it's like the case in the American Depository, whatever. Something about the shares and securities litigation specific to this case. Either way, for the most part, yeah, they're getting sued pretty big time, and like it's a really big deal, and the charges are quite hefty. So if the whole case goes through, they're gonna take a fat shit.
Yeah, I believe it.
What was the company involved in Chinese education that you invested in?
This is the one. It's
I
this
think he
one.
was talking. He was
Oh,
talking.
to you. My bad.
That was. I gotta try to find it because I haven't been. I obviously am not still invested in them. Oh, here we go. RYB Education.
RYB Education.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, are they like a tech company, or is it more like education software, or
No, education.
education?
Education. Like it's a holding company for all education, kindergarten, and play and learning center subsidies.
Mm. So it's private schools essentially.
Um, I don't really know. It's probably not 100% private because nothing can be truly private in China. So it's
Right.
probably either a 50-50 split or government subsidized. But
When did you
yeah.
pull out of this, Mike?
Oh, I pulled out. Let's see. I sold it at 21.50, so that was around June. I bought
Oh
in
man,
during
you
the
pulled
16,
June of like 4 years
2018.
ago,
Yeah, yeah.
2018. You
hmm
pulled out at just the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were going to go downhill. They were losing funding. Government
Oh,
lost hope
they're
in them.
they're below $3 a share right now.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. I pretty much saw no more value in them after I initially bought in, so I just cycled it out. I think I ended up going into utilities after that because 2018, a lot of utility companies were expanding. But
Yeah, waste management.
yep, waste management was a key one. That one I've had a lot of capture on.
Yeah, that's been a good stock that I've held for a while already now.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you hold on to it for the long run, that thing's just going to keep paying dividends. It grows. Yeah, it's not a bad buy.
Sure. Yeah, so I found
Oh,
the link to GSX, and it basically just goes over the charges and what people complain about, and it's pretty much that people complaining about everything being bullshit. Therefore, their public statements were materially false and misleading.
okay. This is some concerning news.
Well, concerning for them, I don't really care.
Well, concerning for RYB education is under Wikipedia, there's an entire problem section, specifically abuse claims. Oh man,
Oh,
yeah.
Huh.
well,
Wow.
hey,
I did
so
not know
Good thing
that.
you
That's interesting.
good thing you pulled out when you did, Mike.
it's probably great to mention that finding signs like these are great reasons for investing or shorting in big companies that are publicly traded. Especially like I feel like most people don't understand that most of trading is like 70% fundamental, and as many statistics as you can put into it, it's ultimately the fundamentals of companies' performance and what they're doing exactly. So that kind of shit is a great time to buy against.
Yeah, there was claims in 2015 and 16 about teachers abusing toddlers and throwing them around and
Oh,
other such things.
oh man.
Yeah, so that already would give you kind of a signal of like, possibly there's a like looking into a short position might not be a bad idea here. If suddenly this company is having claims against it open up about abuse and hurting children, and then of course you do digging, um, and you do a little bit more investigation besides that sort of cursory look, and then you decide whether or not you want to follow through with a short position or not, or what you want to do with that particular investment.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's a big deal. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So were they actually like physically abusing them, or is it just like
Oh
actually
yeah.
kicking them around?
Oh yeah. Let's see here. Reported abused toddlers. Abused
Toddlers. Holy
about
fuck.
30 toddlers with needle stabbing. Um, so
This is
needle
like
like 30 toddlers were stabbed with needles. In
this is
2016,
that
four of the
that
teachers were
Chinese
sentenced
company?
to, yeah, in China. Four teachers were sentenced to 2 years, 10 months of imprisonment. Um, yeah, 2017, a video of kindergarten circulated on the internet showing kindergarten teachers hustling and kicking the children in their charge.
Why does that sound like some teachers that are really like old fashioned, old minded from like 300 years ago?
I mean, Catholic school teachers would smack you on the hand with a ruler not too long ago, so it's not super surprising.
Yeah, that's why I say old fashioned and not
Yeah.
like unrealistic.
No, yeah, that's probably true. But in today's world, that's of course not acceptable. I mean, you can't go around hitting kids. Um,
I mean, you can if you want to go to jail.
that's very true. You can if you want to go to jail.
If you really want to go to jail, listen, possibilities are endless.
Yeah, if you want to end up in pounded in the ass prison, hurt a kid and see where you end up.
Finances, Sarkis. Finances.
Finance.
This is a finance podcast. I mean, all right. Anyways, yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Crazy. Are they like have they maintained public trading status in the stock market ever since? Oh, you
Yep.
said they're like $3 a stock, right?
Yeah, $3 a stock. They're still being traded.
Huh. Who I guess uninformed investors. I was gonna say, who in their right mind would buy into companies like these then, having already known that kind of shit is going on?
Oh, well, I did not know that was going on, but
Well, it looks like you
seems like I
sold.
pulled out the good time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like you sold before that became public. So, but you still didn't know. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I only read up on their business summary and what sector they were involved in, so I figured, that'll show some good capture, and they had good statistics at the time. And then that ended up going up a decent amount. And then once I got like a 12% return, I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with these guys. They're growing kind of went stagnant for a month, and I decided to get rid of them,
And
which was a good bet.
yeah. um, let's see here.
Oh, so I think I have another topic I want to discuss, and it's actually kind of like more of a nerdy topic. Is recently, I don't know if you guys were watching, but SpaceX was supposed to launch new rocket to the ISS. It's supposed to be like the safest manned mission of all time or something, and I believe, considering all the safety and precautions they put into it and all the amount of work they've done to like landing rockets and all this stuff. And then they canceled the launch due to bad weather, and it's supposed to happen again, or their next shot at it is this Saturday, which is May 30th. And I noticed something else happening at the exact same time is that because SpaceX is not publicly traded, and I guess because it's the same sector, but even though it's not necessarily directly correlated in any way, Virgin Galactic, whose ticker symbol is space, actually SPCE, like skyrocketed. I think 9 or 10% within the same day, and then the next day went up another 6 or 7%, just because people were watching SpaceX do a mission, and even though they canceled the mission and then postponed it for another day, SpaceX skyrocketed like I'm sorry, Virgin Galactic skyrocketed like ridiculously. And
Huh.
I think it's hilarious the correlation between the two. Virgin Galactic is not SpaceX. Virgin Galactic
It's
is
owned by
well,
what's his
Virgin.
name? No, by Virgin, but specifically, I'm trying to remember the entrepreneur's name. Richard Branson. There we go. Found
Yeah,
it.
and it's commercial spacecraft aimed at providing suborbital space flights to tourism. So they're not really doing. I mean, they're doing like some space science missions, but it's the whole purpose was not to go into space or like land on the moon or whatever, land on the ISS. They're essentially just sending planes still within the atmosphere, suborbital, uh, up and back down. And they're special planes. They have extra equipment. It's not like a regular Boeing 737 flying up, but they're not really correlated. And somehow the correlation or lack thereof made them skyrocket. And I was just watching their stock like climb for no obvious reason.
Well, I mean, it. So one thing is industries, especially if innovation or something big's going on, it does push other industries up because investors start to see value in future prospects. So I'm pretty sure that's something that happened, especially because these two industries are just so closely related.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking at them right now. It seems like they lost 6% today. Um, so I mean, it seems like the value they achieved got corrected,
No,
pushed
since
down a little
the
bit.
launch, they're still up over $1, which is like 7 or 8.
Oh yeah. Since the launch, I'm talking about today though. So today they're down 5%. They went down a buck. So I mean,
Although,
they're still up for the 5 day.
if you look at their movements on a day-to-day basis, the amount of change they move today essentially is almost like the kind of movement they see on a daily basis. So this is more of a more volatile stock. It has a lot more a larger like swings than other companies do that are a little more stable. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that a huge part of the large movements behind this stock is moved by our Wall Street bets. I genuinely think that this is almost like a meme stock, and there's a million people in that community, and a lot of them have a shit ton of money, and they're constantly trading. And I see this stock pop up there all the time, and there's thousands of people just moving ridiculous volumes behind this stock.
Just pumping and dumping, essentially.
Yeah, so I think their huge movements is in part to do with that Reddit forum, and like it's nothing really. The company themselves, they don't have so much news or release so much info that they can constantly move that much on a daily basis. It's just that because that forum is so massive that it's constantly kept in the eye of a lot of people who have a lot of money, that it constantly moves so much, especially when an event like this happens, that it translates to some sort of a stock price increase, even over like two or 3 day period. I guarantee you it's going to go up again before the weekend, and possibly maybe I don't know about after the weekend, but before the weekend, before the next launch of SpaceX and stuff again, you're going to see them go up again. Although, you know what? I love this shit, and I wholeheartedly support these companies because I'm just a nerd at heart. But like, has nothing to do with whether or not they're actually going to make money or their stock
Yeah.
price. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a weird thing to see, like, people move a stock for no real reason, and like there's no real statistics as to why so many people in Wall Street bets, or like I don't even know why they're pushing the stock, because you see equally as many people betting for it as you do against it on that forum. But that's specifically the reason why they move, 5 to 10% on any given day. And it's weird to look at, because every other normal stock will sort of follow market movements like the Nasdaq, and you'll see that it'll like most stocks that don't move or change a whole lot or have a shit ton of value or like heavily under public view, you won't see their graph for the day-to-day basis really differ all that much from market trends. But in their case, it doesn't mirror it at all, and everything is just completely random. And you'll look for their most recent news, and there won't have been news for like a week, and people are just making speculation about stock price and nothing else.
Is it cool if we move on to a different topic?
Yeah, go ahead. It was just fun
just-
to examine.
There's just something that I find really interesting, and I want to know. I'm wondering how this will affect stocks of social media companies. I believe I mentioned this to you, Mike, yesterday. So the president is having a dispute and a spat with Twitter. He had essentially tweeted something about mail-in ballots, I believe yesterday or the day before, and Twitter, for the first time ever, had flagged his tweet for misinformation, and essentially it did not remove the tweet or anything, but added a link on the bottom fact-checking the particular tweet. From that, the president got pretty angry and threatened to, and in fact today has signed an executive order against social media companies, removing some sort of a protection against them from lawsuits. So apparently, social media companies, including Twitter, will be liable in some sense for potential censorship. It's gonna be interesting how this impacts. Like, let's see. Today, Twitter's down 4.45% from that news.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be really bad. Oh, actually, I think he already wrote it as an executive order, right?
Yeah, he signed
Oh,
it
okay,
today.
so it went into play. Yeah, so that's bad, because I mean that means Twitter can be held liable for any type of censorship on their part.
Twitter and Facebook. Facebook is almost down 2% today, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that won't be good. And I think you're going to see some law cases probably pop up soon for anyone who was censored or had any type of censorship issue. And I wouldn't be surprised to see like a small class action start.
Yeah. It's also
Lawyers
going
are
to
going to
be
be all over that.
interesting if we actually get any sort of forward movement on Twitter, or at least the internet itself, being considered and labeled as a public utility. Because I would argue, and I think a lot of people would argue, that at least the internet access or the internet itself should be classified as a public utility at this point. And a lot of times you could consider social media platforms to really be public forums. So it's going to have a lot of interesting legal implications. And it'll be kind of interesting to see where this sort of leads, if it leads anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean the internet is pretty much needed by most, if not all, people at this point. It's how people stay together. It's how people stay connected and in a modern information-based world.
I mean, that's how people pay bills and do banking. Like,
Well, yeah. In a modern society, it's a modern utility, so that makes sense.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, social media that's always been a very borderline topic for me, only because I see the value in it, but at the same time I don't see it as something that needs to be protected, only because they're still private and their main focus is to make money, you know.
Yeah.
So despite us using it, and I think it depends though. It depends. Like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, those companies I throw into that category, but other forums like Reddit or very large bases that have so much broad knowledge, it almost borderline Wikipedia. Those, on the other hand, yeah, I think should have some sort of protection. But like the ones like Facebook, Instagram,
I
those
know. I think
ones, yeah.
you may be underestimating the broadness and largeness of Facebook or Twitter, specifically Facebook. Facebook is so large; everyone's on Facebook. Um, I don't know.
Well, right. I'm not saying the usership or the utility is low. I'm just saying whether or not it should be protected for the purpose of providing the social forum.
Hmm.
Yeah. So like Reddit, you have a lot of different communities there that focus on many broad topics. Facebook, you have that as well, but to the degree of Reddit, I'm not sure. Only because on Facebook, people are sharing how they, you know, what I'm doing today. I'm buying a shirt today. Hey, I'm at the mall today. And not everyone does that, but I think Facebook is more or less to keep people personally connected, whereas Reddit's focus is more on just hobbies and the knowledge of hobbies and different types of categories of information, which I think Facebook can still facilitate, but to the degree of Reddit, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look into that. Yeah, that'd be an interesting aspect to kind of look into. But yeah, it would be. I see the argument for their private companies, and thus, they're not the government, so they have the right and ability to censor or to remove posts as they see fit, as it is a private enterprise.
Yeah.
I don't think that essentially goes against free speech.
Well, yes, and here's the thing: free speech is only censorship from the government. The government cannot shut down your voice or restrict what you say. It does not restrict you from censorship from private entities.
So I see both arguments. On one argument, there is someone stating something that you don't want to state on your platform. So you don't
Yeah.
want your platform to be viewed in such a way. You don't want to be targeted because it's on your platform.
Mhm.
However, on the other hand, your platform is the platform that's censoring essentially with powers unchecked because it's up to your discrepancy how you censor. So I think the idea is that if you're a social platform for the people that use you to voice their own voice, you cannot tell them what their voice is. As a social platform, your voice of your platform, you can set policies and guidelines, that's great. But like essentially you're given powers unchecked. There needs to be some sort of a check.
Well,
Giving you yeah.
that's why they have
Giving-
user agreements that state everything from censorship rules to ownership. And a lot of people don't read it, but there was a lawsuit against Facebook years ago about their the user agreement, and it did state in there that everything you post, everything you do and say through Facebook is being recorded and held as information and ownership of Facebook. So yeah, I agree that you shouldn't these social media companies shouldn't silence or try to restrict what you're saying, but at the same time, Sarkis is correct. The law is only to protect the government from silencing us. So private companies that technically own that social forum or whatever, they have every right to silence whoever they feel like.
But here,
Just like we can do the same thing to each other.
Here's the my other side of my brain. My other counter argument is one thing we're not mentioning here is certain platforms have such a large market share of the social space that being shut out of one of them is essentially being completely shut out of the discussion or the public forum. For example, for video, online video, if you are shut out of YouTube, you basically are shut out of online video making completely. If you're banned from YouTube, where are you gonna go? Vimeo? Like honestly, you have like essentially no options.
TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sort of tricky situation because you essentially have these coming monopolies, or I guess oligarchies of social media,
Oligopolies.
oligopolies that have almost all the control of the social space. And if they decide, hey, we don't want you on our forums, then you have nowhere to turn to whatsoever.
Well, I think that is illegal. You
Yeah.
can't bar usership, but you can bar certain statements. But I agree. Yeah, that I mean, if they started barring users, yeah, then that would be an issue. Then you just can't. Yeah, you can't get anything like information from any of those sites. You're going to be completely blocked out. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Well,
That's where we
isn't that the concept of refusing service to people? Like you reserve the right to
Oh
give
yeah.
service.
Yeah.
True,
that's
but
also
with
true.
information, the distribution of information, that's a bit more.
Well-
That's very different. Like news stations can't say, in this neighborhood we're not going to put our news there, but we'll do all the neighborhoods around them, only because it's a distribution of information. So, someone could easily sue you for infringing their right of getting information if you're providing the service, like through a channel that they're paying for. But
Well, then as a social platform, you can just as easily argue the fact that none of the information on your platform is real information because it's a social platform. It's not like a wiki, you know?
true, but they can't remove you from using the service. They can just remove what you're posting. Which is what they're doing.
The other thing that's also an interesting point on this is that, for example, you said the right to refuse service. Sure, that may be true for a restaurant where, let's say if you want to go to a bakery and you refuse service there, you can go to another bakery. But if you refuse service from Facebook, there's not another Facebook down the block where you can essentially utilize. You know what I mean? There's not too many alternatives that you can turn to and use.
Right.
Make an alternative.
Still.
Make an alternative.
You can, but I mean that's not that wouldn't pass in court.
I mean you can that wouldn't pass in court, but also you can try, but how successfully will you be? I mean, look at Quibi. I don't know if you guys have probably seen the ads for Quibi.
Haven't even heard of it.
Heard about it? Okay, so it's essentially a streaming service app. The whole premise is all of its videos are 10-minute videos, and it's coming up against all the other streaming services, and it's mobile only, so it's all through your mobile phone. And they're spending a lot of money on this. I mean, they're getting like big name actors and making like A-list stars to make these shows with 10-minute episodes. And man, they have not been super successful with getting too many users onto their platform. Let me pull up what stars are currently actually using. Oh yeah, like LeBron James, Ryan Reynolds, Will Smith. Like these are all the sort of big name stars that are essentially got signed and they're making shows with, but fortunately the numbers are just not there. Oh, Reno 911 is basically being brought back for Quibi as well, for fans of that show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes, I did see that. I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but yeah, I did see that was coming back.
Yeah. So it's coming back exclusively on that platform, like new episodes, essentially, from what I could understand. Um. So yeah, it's interesting to see, like, there's just certain spaces are so saturated and so locked down with their current companies that new upcoming companies are gonna have a tough time trying to get their own share, or like share of the market.
Yeah, and I mean that's just one of the entry barriers, especially when you're looking at oligopolies. The
I'm
entry
assuming
to
I'm assuming Quibi isn't free.
No, it's a paid service, though I believe they said they had a generous trial period. I think like 3 months free or something like that.
Huh. It looks like 2 weeks free.
2 weeks free. Two what?
That's what's on their homepage. I just looked it up right now.
Wow. Because last I heard, they were supposed to have a generous free trial period. When I last like read or watched a review of them, they said they're like 2 or 3 months. What happened? I guess
Yeah,
they
so
weren't gonna make any money for 2 to 3 months, so they didn't want to.
in a space so heavily occupied with free content and paid premium content, starting off your content as paid, I can see why there's such a large barrier getting into it because it's only $5, but everything is $5 now. Every subscription
Yep.
service, every new service, every TV service, everyone's doing a streaming service. Everything is some sort of a subscription bullshit now, and yeah, I can see why no one's biting. Because now you can stream. You have Hulu, Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, Prime Video. I think CNN is doing something. Fox is doing something. Now you
NBC
have
as well
Quibi, NBC.
with their Peacock service.
Yeah, no one's gonna pay for a million different services, and there's
Oh,
just another service popping up.
here we go.
You
So,
have this is the cable TV problem all over again.
oh yeah. Well, here's a follow up on that 90-day free trial. It was 90-day free trial if any new user signs up by April 30th. So that
Ah,
offer is expired.
so you missed the
Um,
window.
yeah. So there we go. But yeah, it's 4.99, but it's ad supported at 4.99. If you want ad free, you have to pay 7.99.
Oh, even worse.
And then they have some sort of a deal with T-Mobile for a free subscription for a year with those with unlimited family plans. Okay. Mm.
Even more of a reason to not get into it.
Yeah. So,
Hulu is free, ad supported,
yep, exactly.
and the content on Hulu has grown hugely massive.
And then if you pay for Hulu, then you don't get any ads. No, you get ad free.
if
Yeah,
you pay for
ad free. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I can see why there's such a large barrier. But I mean, it's like people were willing to open up to a social platform when they saw one that was better than what they currently had. MySpace was hugely popular, and then came Facebook that fixed all the problems that people hated about MySpace, about like the huge customization of your own page that would ultimately never load. No one
Yep.
wants to open up a web page and all of a sudden it starts blasting someone else's music that you don't care about.
Yeah, I remember that getting
Yeah, so Facebook
sites.
fixed all those problems, and then came along, someone who did something better. Do something, you do it better than the previous person. People will gladly jump on board. I don't want to say that no one is afraid, like, people don't like change or do like change. It's just a matter of it improving. If you can fix someone else's problems, people will hop on board.
But see, here the thing is, when certain platforms get so big, like Facebook is now, they can just start acquiring their competitors. I mean, they just bought out both Instagram and WhatsApp, and they also, I believe last week I mentioned another acquisition that Facebook made. And once they have a competitor like Snapchat who has their stories, they can be like, you know what, we're not even going to buy you. We're just, because we have so many resources, we can just create the same feature with their Facebook, their Instagram stories, and beat you at your own game. And at that point, it becomes like, who can really compete in that space then?
I wonder if you can create something like that and then just patent it.
That's an interesting idea, but you're also going to have enough money to patent it and
I
uphold
mean,
it.
Snapchat had enough money to go public and patent it, and
Have
they were
have they patented their?
actually. That's the thing is, I'm sorry I said that, but I don't think they did.
I don't think they can. It's too broad. It's too broad.
That
Patent
might be
laws are
possible.
very specific. That's, I think, partially why I think Facebook got copyright laws, but they didn't get patent laws, is because patents require very specific and unique invention or introduction of some sort of technology.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I don't
you know
think they
what?
would
There's
know
a
to
problem
constitute.
there. How do you patent or copyright software?
Yeah.
That was a big. I mean, that's still a debate now. That's still a massive debate now. Lawsuits are continually hitting um, the judicial branch of our government every day about software patents, software listing, only because it's very difficult to measure that. There's no actual law that protects software patents right now.
So here we go. It was Giphy. They in May 15th they acquired Giphy.
Oh,
For
right.
how much is that? 40 million? No, 400 million. Oh my god.
Yippee!
Yeah, Giphy.
Holy shit!
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's an insane amount of money. That was for that was for Instagram. They've had
Facebook looked at Gift and they're like, "One of us, one of us,
so
one of us."
entire wiki page about this called "Mergers and Acquisitions by Facebook," and it's 84 different entries, 84 different mergers and entries from now back to 2005. Holy crap!
Is that? Oh, I see. I'm looking at the page now. A lot of game companies, Troll Labs.
Labs, huh?
Did Facebook ever do anything with their? They were making like some sort of a VR system.
Oh yeah, they were involved in the VR space. No.
Yeah,
Um. Oh, let me.
I think there's a thing called Facebook Spaces, but I have no idea if that moved on at all. Or hold on, it didn't Facebook buy Oculus, or who's Oculus owned by?
Oh, it might be Oculus actually.
In March 2014, Facebook acquired Oculus for 2.3 billion. Oh, all right, there you go.
Yep.
Okay, I was wondering about that. I totally forgot that it was Facebook that owned that. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so they're quite prevalent in the like VR game space. Yeah, I guess if you can't beat them, buy them.
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah, here we go. Oculus VR 2 billion. WhatsApp was bought for 19 billion. I did not know it was that much. Wow. I know internationally WhatsApp's used pretty frequently, like it's a favorite app, but I did
Yeah.
not know it was sold for 19 bill. Wow. It's a lot of moolah. Goddamn.
Well, now that we're looking for acquisition, that's probably one of their biggest acquisitions.
Yeah.
Actually,
There's a bunch of undisclosed amounts, but of everything that's public, that's by far the largest purchase they've made. Much larger than Instagram. Instagram was 1 billion, I believe. Yeah, 1 billion.
Considering how large of a platform Instagram has become, that's insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a handful of acquisitions that look like they're close to or about $1 billion, and I haven't even heard of Control Labs. Facebook is now known as Facebook Reality Labs. It was says it's undisclosed, but reportedly somewhere between 500 million to $1 billion.
Hmm.
I've never heard of them. There's Live Rail. I've never heard of them. They're about $500 million. Yeah,
100 million for Red Kicks, which is Workplace by Facebook now.
damn, it's crazy to see how many companies Facebook has acquired at this, how large they've expanded. Because you could essentially do anything on their platform now. They now have your financials, they have your personal information, they have your pictures,
They have your dating
video,
profile. They
your dating
essentially have their
profile,
own
your love
Tinder.
life.
Yeah. Did you guys cut out? Sounds like
Yeah.
No, I'm here.
okay.
And the thing is, I don't trust them, so I don't use Facebook directly, but I still use like Instagram and WhatsApp, and it's all owned by Facebook.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to
Like the other day, I had a buddy who sent me money via Facebook Messenger, and I
Mhm.
refused to accept it because that meant that I had to give them my financial information, like log in through my PayPal or give them a credit card or a debit card or something, or not a credit, but a debit card or something for it to load money through. And yeah, I refused to do it just because companies this big that have had so many problems with like user safety and privacy information, or like issues with privacy, issues with, like, for instance, keeping 200 million users worth of passwords in just like a basic text file on some random hard drive somewhere. I wouldn't do it, and so I had him give me money by different means that was a lot safer, that I could trust, like through a bank, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like these companies are massive, and yeah, this is crazy. If they keep buying everyone, you can't outgrow them. I wonder at what point the government will finally step in with its monopoly laws and say, no, enough is enough.
We'll have to see. Yeah. There's only time will tell, really.
Yeah.
Because we can make assumptions, but truly, like when the government decides to step in or do anything, I mean, who knows?
I mean, realistically, you just have to ask, like, what can you do? And that would probably be the first step. It's
Yeah.
not like you can break up Facebook into baby bells and then assign people into different sectors, and that wouldn't work out really well.
It's crazy
You
to
can't
think that.
fragment a social media company that way. Although you could fragment their services. You could say, all right, well, Instagram will now just be Instagram and nothing else. WhatsApp will still just be WhatsApp and nothing else. Well, Facebook workplaces will just be workplaces. Messenger will just be Messenger. You could split up the services, but you can't split them up geographically. So that's
Right.
a possibility.
I mean, you could. That's similar to what they did with the baby bell scenario. The only issue is
Well,
payments.
the baby bells were done geographically now.
Well, only because it was telecommunications. The aspect of it is the similar to what you're saying. Maybe not the execution, because geographically you have to separate because it's a telecoms company. But I'm saying the method of what you're saying, like, breaking them out by, if we were to say, like, departments or sectors of that company. It's similar in the aspect of, what if, all of them start having or requiring payments, or if some of them start requiring payments, that might be a bit of an issue. I wouldn't want that.
I mean, I feel like they would probably lose usership.
Although
A lot of them
I don't
would.
know how likely would it be for them to start requiring payments, compared to if they'll just continue to make money off your information, because that's where they make most of their money anyways.
Well, most of their money
It's
is made off
ads
of advertisement.
Ads, but also selling
And
your
information.
information is
Oh, I guess
quite
like
lucrative.
personalized ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's why like if you use Google services, actually if you use any online service at this point, your information's already out there. It's
Yeah.
I mean, you can
You are
try to escape from it, but it's impossible. Your information has been tracked.
you are the product essentially. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, very much so.
It's crazy how easy you can find someone's information by Googling their name. I had an
Yeah.
issue a while back. I ended up never doing anything about it, but an issue a while back where some kid crashed into my car while he was drunk. My car was parked on the side of the street, and I wasn't even there. So there was an arresting officer that found this kid, arrested him for a DUI, and he left his card on my windshield, and it had some information on it. And I was able to find out so much information about this kid just from like his name and basic details. I found out info about like the status of his house, where he lived, and whether or not he had a job. I think I found his phone number, his social, like some of his social platforms and some other stuff. And then I was in contact with some officials from the city about the case that he was in because I was claimed as uh, I was owed restitution. I was one of the victims in this case, and so as I followed up, I was able to manage and figure out like so much information about this dude, but I never followed up with anything because like what am I gonna do with this? But it's crazy how much info you can get from something so basic.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an investigator. I'm not like a PI. I don't do this shit for a living. I'm a freaking math major. I do mechanical engineering, and having these basic investigative skills, the amount of info I can find about some random dude is scary. So makes you think about yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Although, fuck that kid. If you hear me, fuck you. I'm not gonna say your name, but fuck you. You're an asshole. You caused me so much trouble and money. All right, back to the podcast.
Financials, Peter. Financials.
Hey man, he caused me so many problems with financials. You don't even. The kid didn't have insurance, and then I think he lied to the officer about his insurance. So I ended up having to pay out of pocket for the cost of my car, which was not cheap.
Wow.
Because I didn't have uninsured motorists at the time, and they wouldn't cover it. Yeah, so
Okay.
that was a bunch of bullshit that I don't want to get back into and move on.
Yeah. So, see here. What was? Can't find the article. Can't find the article that I wanted to bring up to you guys. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. You guys can jump on to other topics if.
I did have one company I was texting you guys about that I've bought into just a little bit, just because it's kind of like a high risk, high reward thing. I was talking to you guys about Garrett Turbos.
Yes.
So I think they're called Garrett Motion Inc. And it's a company that produces turbochargers and electronic assisted turbochargers. And in recent times, they've released some new patents about like a new electronic turbo that they want to start selling to their OE partners. This is a company, so doing a little more research, this is a company that's essentially been around for about 65 years. So they're not new to the market in any way. They were a subsidiary of Honeywell for a long time. And they have since split ways with Honeywell about a year ago. And this company has dropped a lot since. I think once they parted ways with Honeywell, they were evaluated around $19 a share, and they've plummeted to like $5 a share right now. And for the last probably since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, they've been hovering right around $5. And I was looking into this company, and I feel like there's a lot of potential or upside, just because they're a manufacturing company. There's a lot of value behind this company because they have warehouses a couple different places in China and US. They work with a lot of different partners. They have a lot of different contracts with large companies that use their turbochargers. They're coming out with new patents for new tech. I wouldn't say all the time they're not a tech company, but they are releasing new stuff. They're constantly updating, upgrading, changing. I've even purchased stuff from them as a car guy myself for my own car, for not as an OE partner, but like as a car enthusiast. So this is just like a company that I've known about for a long time. And seeing that they have a lot of potential upside, I started looking into the financials. And, like, it seems to be that the people investing behind them are kind of confused as to where they're headed. Because there's some people that say that their price targets are like $4 or $5, and then there's other analysts that mark their price targets at like $9 or $12 or something. And there's a lot of confusion as to why they lost so much money. I mean, as of recent, it makes sense why the pandemic has affected everyone, but why I think a lot of it was to do with the amount of money they paid Honeywell when they split and became their own company. But I don't think it's so much that it would put them under, and they're already so low valued at around 450, between 450 and 550, that there's a huge amount of potential. I think the market cap for this company is only, I think it was like 250 or 300 million, which, considering the amount of gross sales they have in per year, and their liquidity and their low debt ratio, there's a huge amount of potential. So I personally picked up some options, but although I cannot recommend options to others, I bought like options that are 240 days to expiration, and honestly, I thought they were pretty damn cheap. They were like $2 for the option, so the amount of time value is pretty low. You kind of assume that they're going to move. I don't know, like it's a big percentage to jump in half a year. You assume that they're going to do 30 or 40%, considering the cost of the option and the time value. If they literally don't change value from now till half a year from now, I lost all my money. But considering how much they've dropped and the amount of potential upside, I don't think the percentage correlates directly to the value. I don't know. This is a company that I was looking at that I think has potential, and I'm gonna follow them for a while. I'll track them, and I'll let you guys know how they do after some period of time. Because it's options, I can't hold on to it forever. Once I make some sort of a profit, I'm probably going to drop those options. Although I could recommend maybe buying some shares, I just wouldn't recommend buying a lot of them, just because this is definitely one of the higher risk, higher reward things. If anything, I don't think this company is going to go under, because they produce technologies that are becoming rapidly more used in everyday vehicles daily. Like almost every single car on the road has a turbo now, compared to 10 years ago where nothing had a turbo. I don't see any reason why they would go under, just because their financials are relatively solid. So this is something I would definitely recommend as a stock, but up to you to really discuss or consider.
Also, just a disclaimer, remember, we're not financial advisors. This is not, you're not talking to brokers or anything. This is just three buddies talking, speculating.
This is just my personal, I think this
our
company is
personal
good.
It's your money. If you're going to invest, liabilities on you. Do your own research. Also, one thing I just want to mention because you mentioned options. Please be careful if you're going to option trade. There was a post I saw yesterday. I don't know. There's no way of verifying the exact validity of this post, but someone was mentioning how they had money granted to them by their parents to invest on their behalf, and they basically YOLO'd 60 some K into some options and immediately lost it all.
Oh my god.
So then they were given about 100K to invest. So yeah, be very careful with options. That's a very high risk, high reward sort of investment. So
Yeah, I'm not recommending them. I might recommend the company. I'm just saying that I personally have done options. Keep in mind that with options, you are far more likely to lose 100% of your investment than you
Yep.
are with actual stocks.
the likelihood of going to zero is much higher.
Like almost 100% higher.
Hmm.
The company, if you own stocks in a company and they go bankrupt, there is some sort of liquidity there. If you own options and it reaches expiration and you can't execute those options, or it falls out of the money, you've lost everything you own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this side, I think Garrett is a pretty good company to look into. Don't YOLO 60K in the option unless you know.
Yeah, please.
Damn,
We
is
beg
this
you,
like
be
some
smart with
trust
your
fund
money.
kid?
I don't know. From what I could tell, he just had like 104K given to him by his parents to invest on their behalf, and because he apparently invested himself his own money as well. He's 18 apparently, from his previous posts. So yeah, I don't. In one day, he lost 60 some K. So
Yo, not just on him, but bravo to the parents that like just hooked it up.
congratulations, Wall Street Bets.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's way too many people on Wall Street Bets like that. They're just like, yep, check out these losses. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I just lost 100K. Congratulate me. I did it all for the points and for Reddit.
absolutely.
Oh man, amazing.
Genius.
Phenomenal.
I mean, yeah. So that just about covers most of the topics I wanted to. Any open discussions or anything that you guys want to start?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the only big thing that I've been reading on that was pretty interesting was John Krasinski sold his Some Good News segment
yes.
to NBC, and
There's a lot of talk about that.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about that, a lot of backlash from fans. It's an interesting topic to discuss because from Krasinski himself, he actually went on Rainn Wilson's Instagram feed, Instagram Live or show. He basically talked about how Some Good News was only supposed to be those 8 episodes that were on YouTube, and that's it, because Krasinski had all this extra time being stuck at home. So he decided to make this show. And afterwards, he just, he's not going to continue anymore because he has other projects like, what was it, Jack Ryan or Jack
Ryan, yeah.
Jack Ryan, that he's the star of, and he has like other projects that he's working on. So he's not going to continue the show anymore by himself. So he said, sell the show. He could make money, but also the show itself can continue on, and he'd still be involved behind the scenes as, I believe, a producer. So you can still have some say on like what goes on in the show. The thing that ticked off a lot of fans is the initial news was that the the show would, instead of being free to view on YouTube, any new episodes would essentially be behind, what was it, CBS All Access, which is a paid subscription service. Although apparently Krasinski has since gone out and said that that was a typo or misinformation, that it's not going to be behind CBS All Access. Unclear where they're going to continue the show on what platform, but not behind CBS All Access from what we know currently. Yeah,
they got really big really fast.
Very much so. I mean, he had huge, he's a big star himself, but also he had huge celebrity guests and friends and stuff to come onto the show. He also had various different major sponsorships. I believe it was, I'm trying to remember which cellular provider partnered with him to take those healthcare workers to, it was like a big baseball field. Was it T-Mobile, possibly, or Verizon? Let me try to remember. But basically, he had access to major sponsorships and partnerships, even with that like makeshift YouTube show he just made at home with his friends. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting business move. Whether I agree with it or not, I see his point of view. I can also see how some fans are kind of off-put where he immediately turned around and sold it.
Wait,
particularly if it goes behind a paywall.
So you're saying he was bored at home and just started talking about news online. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Financial decapitation sold to CBS.
Oh, dude. What? Us? No way. 12 million views. Oh, jeez.
No, geez. Oh, man. Yeah, him and Joe Rogan have both sold. Well, no, actually, Joe Rogan has not sold his show. He's only locked in a licensing deal with Spotify, which
That is
smart. The numbers came out, and it's, I believe, $100 million deal.
Yeah,
Joe made with Spotify.
that's a huge deal. I think like biggest deal of all time with podcast as of now.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the biggest in terms of podcasts. It's massive.
I mean, well, some good news ain't really a podcast.
Yeah, it's a show, but still, it's still a big deal. Mike, do you have any inputs or?
No, I think you covered it. I guess for me, I'm just more or less bummed that there's so much negativity being viewed on this, especially because Krasinski came out saying that he designed this for the purpose of encouraging positivity and the focus of good news. And then as soon as he sells it to try to keep the ball rolling when he can't sustain it, people immediately turn their backs to him. And of course, not everyone's doing it, but I think people really miss the purpose of why he did this in the first place, despite doing it to contain himself while bored. He also had the other focus of wanting to focus on positive news, the good stuff, because, news is always flooded with such horrible news, and bad news is good publicity for their viewership. So yeah, it's just a bummer for me because the whole it's ironic, I think, really, that he's trying to do this out of something good and people immediately flipped it to be something negative.
It sounds like it was just that people appreciated that it was something good for a change, and they were upset that it's moved over to a platform or to a company that they associate with something so negative.
So, if I remember reading correctly, I believe ABC is going to take it in on their news station, and they're planning on running it with their news segments, so that now every day you're going to get a glimpse of good news, no matter what. Now, naturally, I think other news stations will adjust to this. Hopefully, if hopefully if this takes off, but. I think it's interesting because there's a lot of statistics out there that shows, good news, bad news. And from the 70s onwards, we saw that the reporting of bad news increased exponentially because people are more interested in tragedy and bad things rather than the good things around us. Which, I mean, it's psychological too. For example, if you guys think about your worst moments in life, or if arguments you've had with people, you can recall them fairly vividly. But when it comes to positive encounters you have with people, sometimes it's more difficult to come up with things, only because we're less focused on the good things, only because we're passive in it. But with the bad things, we're more active because we're trying to fix it.
Well, that's also true with even just social media itself. You'll see a lot of famous or popular people online will have a lot of issues with dealing with comments or interactions via social media, because you may have 100 good and positive comments, but the one bad comment is the one that sticks out, and that's the one you remember. And then you also have to remember scale. When people are dealing with a million people, if 99 of them are okay, 99% of them are okay, even that 1% is still a couple thousand.
Yeah.
It's still 1,000 people.
So I think that all stems from the concept that you don't get rewarded for doing good things on a daily basis, but you do get punished for doing bad things. Like not littering. You just walk down the street, and then instead of dropping your trash on the floor, you throw it in the trash can and no one sees you. You don't get rewarded because you threw your trash away. But if you do litter and someone catches you, you do get fined for it, and it's a lot more obvious. And then you don't remember that, oh yeah, on this day I threw this piece of trash away. But you do remember that, yeah, that asshole gave me a ticket for littering because I dropped my piece of trash on the ground. It's the same concept. It's more of like a stain in your memory rather than just something you do naturally. Because most people naturally try not to do bad things, so they don't remember most of the things that they do. It's just like a general, I don't know, general rule of thumb with most people. It's just kind of constant. Although some good news, it is nice to see good news for a change. And yeah, like all the news that you get on a daily basis. That's why I stopped listening to the news, and I'm selective with the articles that I read, because you don't want to read about the nonsense all day, every day, where everything is bad, this is bad, that is bad, and you get tired of the same thing over and over again. So it is kind of sad to see it go.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why I'm glad that he sold it and they're continuing the segment. Now we have hope that maybe this will carry on and continue to spread good news. Maybe this will reintroduce the factor that good news actually has a place in the news and the information we receive. I think we've surrounded ourselves with such a negative society at this point that so many people are critical of every little thing. We've created a very strict society despite people arguing they want a loose society. It's very weird. We live in a very ironic world.
Also, sorry if I ran over you, Mike, in the beginning of the Some Good News and just sort of went on a tangent.
That's fine.
Oh, you covered all the hot points, man.
One last thing I just want to mention, just sort of an update, because I think we've just been updating this every week. The news numbers came out today, because today is Thursday. 2.1 million more Americans have applied for unemployment in the last week. The total is now over 40 million, which is about 25% of the labor force. Labor force is about 164 million in America. So, man, that's yikes. That's a big yikes.
Yeah, a lot of unemployment.
Boeing has also said they're gonna cut numbers, although numbers are a bit everywhere. There's this post on Wall Street Bets about various different news sources are stating and quoting different numbers of layoffs at Boeing. So
Well,
Yeah.
the media is hard to fully trust in a time like this where like everyone is keeping track of their own numbers. Um, a lot of the numbers that you're reporting are inaccurate, and we don't know whether they're overstated or understated. Because hospitals are getting paid, way more money just to deal with coronavirus patients over normal patients, or people who have had the coronavirus who have recovered from it are who pass away for totally different reasons, like for instance, to natural causes or old age, are being reported as coronavirus deaths. And so, like, the numbers you get are inaccurate. And then the difference from one media outlet to another media outlet is also different. So it's really just an estimation for you to understand the state of the world rather than to get some exact statistics. Because everything is going to be, it's just some dude sitting in an office that looked at some numbers and went, yeah, that seems about right, and put it on an article, and someone else takes it for fact.
Here we go. It's so their Boeing is saying about 6,700 to 7,000 jobs will be laid off. And worst case scenario, Boeing will cut it up to 12 to 13,000. So the 12 to 13,000 number is an estimate, with the realistic number that will be cut is between 6,700 to about 7,000. That's why all these articles are having different numbers, because they're quoting different parts of the same statement.
To give you the opposite perspective, Amazon is planning to offer permanent roles to as much as 70% of the, I think it was like 150,000 or 175,000 new workers that they hired in the US just to keep up with the pandemic increased traffic. Yeah, it's a shit ton. 70%. That's like astonishing figures that they're going to make permanent, or they're claiming to make permanent. There's no, I don't know if it's official yet or if it's just a plan.
We'll have to see what the follow through.
Yeah, but I mean that's like
100 some thousand all in the U.S. or globally?
all in the U.S.
All in the U.S.
It's 70% of the U.S. workers that they hired to keep up with the pandemic stuff. Because I don't know if you heard in the news that they hired like another 150 to 175,000 people here just to keep up with the traffic for the time being, and all those roles were supposed to be temporary or no, I guess you can call it seasonal, like pandemic season.
Pandemic season.
I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they were supposed to be temporary positions, and now they're possibly planning of making those positions permanent. So it's not all bad news.
Yeah, it's not all bad news, but you also have to be you also have to be kind of prepared for the worst case scenarios just in case. At least my perspective is expect the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way
Wow,
to
that
do
is the complete opposite I follow, but I see the merit in both.
Prepare for the best, but expect the worst.
Well, isn't that what he just said?
No.
What? Sorry, repeat.
I said prepare for the worst. Prepare
Expect
for
the worst.
Expect the worst. Prepare. Hope for the best.
All right, guys. I don't know what I just said, but I believe it. Yeah.
Expect the worst, hope for the best.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I was used to hearing like prepare, like I prepare for the worst, but I hope for the best. Yeah, that's why I think I got confused. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, prepare or expect for the worst, hope for the best. Essentially. That and what was it? Under promise, over deliver.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Assuming that you can sell your under promised hopes.
Actually, never heard that one before.
Really?
Under promise, over deliver. If you tell them you get one thing done, and then you get so much more
I,
done.
I,
They'll
I
be a
can,
lot
I
more
can
proud of you.
infer,
Than...
I can infer what the statement means. I'm not retarded. I know.
I'm just hey, that's a common statement. I've heard a lot of people say that, so that's surprising.
Yeah, no, I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we end it on that note?
Yeah. Sounds
All
like
right.
a good to end. All right.
To keep up with the under promise, over deliver, we're not going to do any more episodes. See you guys in a week. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, this isn't right. All right, I won't under promise in that sense. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna keep trying to do our weekly podcast and keep up with a steady stream of news. And as always, you can always contact us on our different platforms. You can email us. You can contact us through Reddit. We have the forum posts, and we'd love to hear back from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you're mad at us, angry at us, happy with us, I don't know. If you just feel like you want a place to rant, maybe we'll talk about what you mentioned, and we'll try to throw it in the podcast, make a mention out of it.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.